that. Let's talk a little bit about what we learned last time. Yesterday, we were learning about faces. So we were learning how to draw faces in a couple different ways. I taught you guys how to do the mask method and how to actually approach that a little bit better, why you draw it, and why it is such a strong method when it comes down to just learning how to draw the face in general at first. It's a very, very strong way of mapping a face. The mask essentially gives you your temples, your cheekbones, the side of your face immediately, and it gives you all the mapping points for the rest of your face, including your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. So it's a very, very quick way of being able to break down faces in general and being able to come up with a bunch of variety of things. So I like doing that one. The other one that you talked about a little bit was the butterfly approach. The butterfly approach to a face is essentially very similar, where you are grabbing a face shape, but instead of a mask, you draw a little butterfly. And you use these sections to distinguish where your body is going to end up. By changing the shape and the size of these little elements, you get to different sorts of looks, patterns, styles, and just having something that helps you map that out is really, really helpful. So can we learn about dynamic poses? So, you guys want to see the head looking up real fast? Well, if you guys take like a sphere and then you guys draw a circle inside of it, you guys will get the placement for both ears. Once you have both ears, you can decide where your chin is going to be, and then you can just draw your jaw going into the chin, and then looking up poses just don't become so hard anymore. Okay? They become a little bit easier when you can see your shape through your elements. So that is what I suggest you do if you have problems with that. So so you guys were talking about poses. So it's going to be between posing. We'll leave that one here. What should be I did it on the wrong side. So now it gets to be a foldy one. There you go. So to do perspective. Okay, so how about we draw posing and perspective? So how do you posing and perspective, and how do they tie in? Okay, so why is it important to understand perspective when we are posing our characters? Well, it's because understanding perspective can give you a lot of depth when it comes down to understanding how your characters move. How you pose them is going to be highly dependent on you understanding how body parts connect to your body, right? So understanding posing, you don't really need to understand how to move, like how every muscle is built. All you need to really know is how they move and where they are located. Once you understand those two elements, it becomes easier to move your elements like hands, arms, legs into whatever shape you need. So in order to do that, you also need to understand a very basic level of perspective so that you can actually give your characters depth in a three-dimensional space. So we are going to talk a little bit about how to achieve this, because this is something that is really annoying for a lot of people, and a lot of us are stuck in the whole having to draw our things flat because we don't understand how to move things into perspective by little tiny changes. Right? So we are going to talk a little bit about that. If you guys are going to stay for the lesson, please share the stream. Please like the stream. Mr. Hardy here will be here to remind you this whole time. So let's go into posing. How do we get better at posing? How do we understand posing? And what should we actually think about when we are trying to get better at posing? So we are going to, God, I can't see my screen. Posing. And 3D schists. Okay, so how do we make things look 3D? So the big problem with how people normally draw their like characters when they don't understand how to draw something in three-dimensional space is that they tend to draw things in a flat surface. So what I mean by flat surface is that they set a horizon line and then everything falls within that space. They choose one single line and then everything from the plants that they draw or the trees or anything else that's coming out of this surface is coming out of this flat horizon point. Trash cans. Doesn't matter what it is, it's coming here. So it gives you like the sense of everything being flat. So that does not help with depth, right? So that's something that we need to try to avoid. But how do we avoid that? How do we make this like not a thing without having to understand vanishing points and all that stuff? Well, the thing is, the problem comes with understanding perspective and how we learn it. So if we learn how to draw our things based on copying other people's artwork, we learn through copying lines. We don't like learn through copying depth. So when we focus on drawing something, let's say an eye, right? And we focus on the whole concept of drawing something like a trapezoid, right? And then you go like, oh, well, you know, it's supposed to be like an almond shape. It's supposed to be something. This is drawing based on style. This is somebody's styling of an eyelid. And you're just copying it based on the little gimmicky things that they tell you. A trapezoid, draw a little almond, draw the little lines. That is not necessarily conducive to you learning how to draw. It's going to teach you how to draw something pretty, how to render something pretty, but style is not knowledge. Being able to draw something pretty doesn't mean that you understand what you're drawing. Being able to understand what you're drawing would incorporate you telling me like, okay, well, I'm drawing an eye. An eye is an eyeball. The inside part of the eye has two parts. It has a little colored part, it has a color, and then a little black part inside. Now, to create these different eyes, all you got to do is learn how to subdivide your shape into hemispheres. If you learn how to do that with a basic sphere, it just takes getting 2 points and connecting them, going around in circles. That's all you need to do. Take 2 points, which will be the edges of the eye, and then connect them in circles. Just draw a circle through your circle, circle through your circle. You will have the 2 points, and then you can just trace them around. So understanding how to do that and how to visualize that, that is the hard part of being an artist. It's not necessarily having to draw an almond-shaped eye. No, the almond-shaped eye just comes naturally from changing the hemispheres to be on the side. You thicken the lines, and then you have a tilted eye. You want another type of eye, then just change the hemispheres to be a little bit different, and you'll have one that's droopy or whatever. Okay, so understanding that the eye is a sphere, that is a foundational skill. Understanding the perspective, which is just as simple as drawing a circle inside of a circle, connecting 2 points, and overlapping the top line, gives you access to drawing eyes really, really good. So whenever you are drawing things in 3/4, set the middle point at the side on this edge, draw a circle around it, find the other side, and then try some hemispheres going to the other side. You will have a perfectly round eye every single time. I'm assuming at the point that he could visualize it in his mind and not paper. Yes, whenever I'm actually drawing, I'm not necessarily thinking about these hemispheres. So whenever I'm actually drawing like a face or an eye or something like that, in this case, I'm just literally I see the eyeball, and then I just get to dictate however I want because I'm already visualizing those points, right? So I'm already thinking about those points. I've done them so many times, so I don't really need to visualize them too much. And then I can draw eyes in every single way that I need. You always use guidelines because I never have, and I don't know if it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not. Like, it really isn't. I'm just giving you guys ways to visualize things. Like, I knew of one of my friends, one of my best friends that I've met in the last recent years. I called him flat style because whenever he did his drawings, he would just go and draw the outlines of them. Right? He would get perfectly symmetrical lines, but he would just draw the outside edges first, regardless of whatever positioning he would draw his characters in. It would be the outside edges first. And I was like, what are you doing? Well, he's like, well, that's how I see world. That is how I see the world. That is how I know how to draw. And I was like, wow, that's so fascinating. It's not wrong by any means. Any way that you create is going to be an absolutely fantastic thing, period. But it's just really cool to understand that you have other options, right? It's not going to be, if you don't see things this way, it doesn't mean that you are not meant to be a designer or you're not meant to be an artist. It just means that that way of learning isn't very conducive to you. And you need to find something else or another person or some other way of learning that's going to teach you what you need to learn. This guy was an amazing designer. Like, he easily on par with me or anybody else that I have ever actually had the chance to design with. So it was just beautiful to see how different people approach things. And it's just like, it always teaches you, like, hey, if you try to teach a fish how to climb a tree, it's never going to think it's smart, right? So if you think that, like, you're going to try to teach a little fishy how to climb a tree, it's going to think it's dumb its entire life. So don't do that. If you find yourself being the little fishy and you just don't get it, find another way to learn so that you can actually visualize that. Now, the way that I explain things tends to be more towards character design in general, and it's going to be more about like visualizing aspects like perspective and anatomy, because those are the aspects of character design that are normally bypassed by so many people. So many people just forget that these elements need to be like a core component in your repertoire, that they just like, they go into looking at drawing something pretty instead of drawing something accurate. And, that affects you later on down, like, in your career. Like, you're just going to like regret it a lot if you don't focus on these things at first, because posing in general is all about understanding just very basic shapes going into different types of perspective, overlappings and foreshortenings, and just knowing where things move. So if you don't understand how to draw a leg, it's going to be really hard for you to pose a leg. Right? If you don't know how to draw, for example, like the collarbone and where the arms connect, well, that's going to make it really hard for you to understand where arms come from. So you need to have some work ahead of you, and you need to understand that you're going to need to learn those things if you want to get good, because that is going to be a requirement for posing things in general. It doesn't matter what you're doing, what type of pose you're doing. You're going to need to be able to understand where things connect so that you know where the limitations are. So you understand how far back you can choose them. You can make, like, motion happen if you can. Things like that are very important and are second nature to most people that go into animation, storyboarding, or any sort of motion type of drawing, like comic books or illustrations in general. So the reason that I know that this is such a strong thing that needs to be learned is because I didn't learn it in school. Like, my teachers tried. I'll be direct with this. Like, I gotta admit that my animator teachers tried very, very hard to teach their concepts to the students. And it was just it's a very hard topic to really teach someone that does not understand how to view things in shapes. So if you don't understand how to view things in shapes, posing is incredibly difficult, right? If you try to copy through replication, it's so incredibly hard because you can't replicate sushis. You can't replicate knowledge. It's just very, like, when people stylize things, when people draw things cool, it's because they understand what they're drawing. And then they take that and then they distort it, right? They understand it first and then they draw it differently. It's not that they only draw weird, or some people do. Like, some people just like drawing in a very peculiar way. But it's more often than not than the person understands what they're drawing before they actually go out and they try to draw something. It's especially at a professional level. So as beginners or people that just barely start, when you try to add all the detail and all the different measures of muscles and shadows into something that you don't even really understand how it's put together, well, that's where you get up like drawings that are super deep, like shadowed and stuff, but they are inaccurate when it comes down to their basic foundations. And that is a very telltale sign of a person that is new to this. So I'm going to explain to you guys how I normally start with my sushis. This is what I call these guys. I call sushis. So sushis give me the ability to do a couple things. Sushis let me draw the torso and my hip bones incredibly quick, right? So yeah, this is for a cartoony based type of figure at first. But as you guys can see, very quickly you can go in and add a lot of musculature because it provides you all the information you need to be able to draw those body parts as well. It's just a simplified version of what a skeletal system would be. So the sushis are very, very cool because they provide you all the information you need in a very basic shape. Okay, so I like to do that with bean bags. I like to do that with different elements that have natural curvature. All right. Anything that has a natural curve is going to be something that's going to be conducive to a nice, cool body. There's a bunch of little like tricks that you guys can do, like contrapposta, which like means that half of your whenever your hips are pointing one way, that means that your collarbone should go the other way. Stuff like that is just counter positions, which is contrapposta. That's essentially what it means, I think if my Italian is not wrong. And it just means that you change the angles of things as you go down it. Like in an actual character, it would look like this. So you would have your hip bones and your collarbone pointing in two different ways, creating tension. And then you would have your knees pointing in two different ways, I guess. And then you would have your ankles it's just weird, man. I never understood how that applied, really. That never made sense to me. So I never really applied it. So whenever I'm drawing my characters, as you guys can see, I'm very clear, able to draw pretty much anything that I want. But I never see things like this. I see posing more so akin of just combining 2 or 3 different elements, which are your hard surfaces. I like to think about my rib cage and my hip bones as these 2 basic shapes, like a balloon stuck to a little tree branch or a little stick, right? If you think about it as a balloon stuck to stuck to a thing, then it's easy for you to just think of different sticks with different balloons. And you end up with different body shapes. Big balloon, little stick. Bah. Right? So as you play around with finding like the body shape system that you like, that you enjoy, that works for you, because everybody sees things differently too. It's not like you're not going to be stuck to one way of drawing. So the moment that you find the system that works for you to be able to understand your chest or your pectorals, or not your pectorals, your rib cage and your hip bones, then you can start posing. Once you understand this, then you can start posing, be it a beanbag, be it a sushi, be it whatever like type of measure you feel like you have to understand. This is step one. So understanding your basic shapes. Now, learning how to overlap them comes second. We're not even adding a head at this point, okay? Learning how to just move those around and see where those elements fall is going to be step number 2. Just taking the basic points that we learn and then just moving arms around, ghosting them in there, just trying different things out from wherever the arms and the legs are cutting out from so that you understand the limitations of your legs and your limbs, right? So this is as easy as just drawing a basic shape, finding your armholes that come underneath your collarbone, you finding your leg holes, and then just ghosting legs and stuff like that coming from those exact holes. Understanding how that works on your characters is very important, right? Try to like foreshorten things, see how that looks. Sometimes it's going to look like the character is pushing their leg back. It's really cool. So practicing that with a basic structure of just your rib cage and your little cylinder for your hip bones is going to allow you to play around with posing without ruining a drawing or anything. And you're going to just be a stronger designer just by literally doing a simple exercise as this, right? So doing stuff like this is what allows you to be able to pose your characters properly. So take the time to understand where things fall, how things move, where they angle from, where they pivot from, so that whenever you have the need to understand that different movement, you understand where things come from and how they work. Right. So that is essentially what you have to keep in mind when you're posing. Learn how this works, your rib cage, in a basic structure. Learn how your hip bones work in a basic structure, and then just learn to connect them and work off the angle points. Like any leg that I draw from here, I repeat this all the time, but anything that I draw from here that has a leg shape is going to look like a leg. Okay? It doesn't matter if I draw a massive, like, exoskeleton. As long as it connects back to this little hole, it's going to look actually quite well. Because that's just the origin point for my leg. So it doesn't matter if it's skinny or if it's big. It's going to match. If it matches here, if it goes into here, you can draw pretty much anything and make it look like a leg. So you don't have to draw the body part perfectly to know how to draw or where to draw the body part. So it could be something as simple as a cylinder if you wanted to. But as long as it's coming from that point, it's going to have a little bit more feel like an actual leg, as opposed to something that doesn't. So that is how essentially legs work. The hip bone in general can be simplified by drawing a cylinder and angling in these shapes. So draw a cylinder, angle them in, and then. So there's a bunch of different. You have your ear right here or something. It's going to go around your head. It's going to have probably like a midpoint going around the back. And then if it's something like a Cleopatra type of haircut, it's kind of like a cylinder. You just follow that same shape down. And it's just going to go around your head. So things like this are just a matter of understanding how a sphere wraps around the sphere. Essentially, that is all you're doing. You're drawing shapes on top of your shapes. So as you're drawing here, they're just draping shapes, even if it's a more complex character. It's just going to go around your head, like as it goes around, because you have a hairline. And then all the hair originates from that hairline. So the amount of detail you put on it is going to be up to you. You can use a lot of reference for that sort of stuff. But if you want to just understand the basic concept of how hair works, that is how hair works. It's just a shape on top of your shape. It's kind of like if you added a t-shirt on top of your hand. So if you had like your hand and you wanted to add a t-shirt to it, you would add a little bit of girth, right? And it would drape. So if it's a baggy t-shirt, long hair, it would drape even longer, but it's still following that same pattern. So essentially this is just the same thing as hair. Meanwhile, I will draw some legs. I have been told I am a good whistler. I got told that the other day. Apparently, I can have a lot of tones. That's really cool. All right, so what we're drawing? I don't see anyone typing. Velociraptor feet. Velociraptor man. Velociraptor man. No, Velociraptor man would have a cooler song than that. Here comes Velociraptor. Bah, 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 bah. Yeah, that would be like something like that. I've always been a man that is driven by ego and props. Ego boosts and props are probably my love language. Like, not in a narcissistic way. I'm a very humble human being, but I absolutely adore getting props. It's just cool. It's just really nice. It's like, that's why I'm good at things. So I got good at pool because I wanted the ring. I wanted that darn celebration ring. I saw somebody with it and I wanted it and I got it. So, I got good at pool for that. My boost in my ego. Yay, I'm a good pool player. I got good at art because I was the worst person in my art college. Like, I was literally a person that just barely picked up how to draw at 18, competing against all these people that had been drawing since they were like in their mom's womb. So I was like, cool, awesome, let's do this. And, again, I succeeded. So it was really, really, really fun to see myself succeed based on my own merit. And over the years, essentially, I'm my own biggest fan, right? Like, I essentially believe wholeheartedly that I will succeed. And that is a big factor in the little amount of success that I have actually had. Now I'm a world recognized artist. I'm a person that gets invited to competitions worldwide. I'm a person that gets to travel and enjoy life in other countries and stuff like that for a while. I'm a very fortunate person because I just never gave up on it. Like I got told multiple times to give up. Like I got told countless times by even partners to give up. Right? So, what I say to that is, you can go to hell. On all reality, like anybody that comes into my life nowadays, if they're not supportive of what I do, they can straight up just go kick rocks. Like it's just not even it's not even a question anymore, right? Like if you are not on Team Rod, you are not for Team Rod, period. And that will mean I have a lot less people in my life. That will mean that you end up, spending a lot more times alone than not. But at the end of the day, like I will never be told again to give up by a person that tells me that they love me. Like never again. Like that was like one of the most devastating things I ever heard from a partner. And she probably doesn't even know she did that. So doing what I do, like at first when I started doing this sort of stuff, I didn't know how to speak in front of a camera. I would get nervous. I would get shaky. I would get like flustered and then like quit. I'd be like, no, I sound horrible. Why is my voice so fucking squeaky? But, eventually you just learn how to be okay and more comfortable. And the more you do it, the more confidence you develop. And eventually in time, you just develop the skills you need to from doing what you want to do. So if I never would have started 7 years ago, hey, I wouldn't be here right now. Maybe that's longer than most people would want to wait to achieve their dream. But, I get to teach everybody. I teach thousands of people now every single day. And, like it took a long time and took a lot of effort, but, now I get to teach people for free around the entire planet. And that is really, really cool. Yeah, they're just dried out highlighters. These aren't anything interesting. Like that's why I don't normally just call them out. It's just a highlighter. I don't like using materials that are expensive or in any way, shape, unattainable. Even the little grips, like these are little grips from like Amazon. There's nothing special about them. So if you guys do want to get like some cool materials, just spend your money wisely, but don't think that the material is going to be the thing that makes your artwork better. That is a very common misconception that a lot of people have. Like they think that their drawings are just going to improve because they have Copics, or their drawings are going to improve because they have a Wacom tablet. It just doesn't do that. Like that's not how it works. Like those things are just tools. The tools are essentially just ways for you to get your artwork out. So if you don't have the ability to do so with that basic pen, it's going to even be a little bit more stressful for you to do it with something that's expensive, and you're going to have an actual physical pain from having to waste them practicing over and over and over. Like it's just like I have sketchbooks that I have never used because they were like $30. Right. So they were incredibly expensive for what I thought was incredibly expensive for a sketchbook back then. So I never touched them. And since I never touched them, they never got any use. And all because it was an expensive material. So, eventually I told myself, hey, we're not going to do that anymore. We're just going to draw with whatever we have. And it was, at the beginning, it was Post-its and ballpoint pen and highlighters because that was free stuff for my office. I was working as a merchandise photography guy for like TV mounts. Yeah, it was like a ridiculously horrible job. Like it was just monotonous, and every single day I just wanted to literally crash my motorcycle to the side of the freeway because I just didn't feel like my creative energy was just being used in the right way. Like I felt like I was wasting my potential. I was wasting my time. Every single hour that I was there, I could have probably taught somebody something, or I could have just sat down and like learned something new. Like I'm a perpetual student. Like I will be a student of just the general concept of art for the rest of my entire life. Right? That is just the role that I chose to play in this little like world. And thanks to that though, thanks to people like me, you guys get a lot of knowledge for free, right? Because I don't feel like hoarding stuff. That's also why I'm horrible at doing subscriptions and like exclusive shit, by the way. For any of my subscribers from Instagram that have followed me, I really do truly apologize because like I know that like people want exclusive shit, right? People want to like pay to only get something themselves. And that goes against every fiber of what I want to do with my job, right? Keeping hoarding information is what literally like makes the art world go to shit. Like not sharing, not growing our skills, not growing our like communities, and always being in competition with each other because you're so desperately trying to not be like copied or whatever. All that stuff is so deterring to like building an actual community. So keeping knowledge from each other just simply due to the fear of maybe someone stealing what you've learned is so sad. It's so sad in my opinion because no one can really steal what you do. It's what you do, right? You imparting the knowledge on other people is never going to be something that comes back to you in a bad way. But whenever I see people think like that, especially in the tattoo industry, Jesus fucking Christ, like I don't understand what tattoo artists like are like terrified of, but they're just terrified of sharing every single like anything of their knowledge. Like I've honestly thought about doing like an internship in a tattoo shop just so I can have that information, just so that I can share it, just out of pettiness, like straight up out of pettiness. Like I would love to just go in, be like, oh, I am not an artist. I don't know anything. I want to be a tattoo artist. And then just come in with like life drawings and like roses and stuff like that in the portfolio. Obviously get an internship job and then just see what they do to try to teach me. And then just expose them. You met that girl in Scotland and disappeared and left everyone hanging. I was paying you monthly. Yeah, hey, you know what? Contact me over on Instagram. If you've been like paying for like a couple months, I'll make it up to you. Like I'll just refund you your money. Like honestly, whatever you feel like, man. Like I feel like I let down a lot of people on Instagram. So it's not even a matter of like not wanting to do things for you guys. It was just overwhelming. Like I was getting demanded that I made people mods and stuff like that. Like some people were just incredibly like, they were trying to be helpful, but at the same time, it was like incredibly like hurtful to be like demanded to help. Like, oh, you don't want my help? I'm like, dude, I haven't responded in one day. Like, chill. And then that honestly just put me over the edge. And I was just like, you know what? I can't do this. Like I feel like I'm in a shitty relationship right now and I'm not even with anybody. Like I just started feeling overwhelmed and I was like, you know what? If I want to keep my sanity, I can't keep doing that. So, you know, I'm terribly sorry about that. Feel free to communicate with me. Send me a message. You know, I don't want to like, I'm not trying to like rip anybody off. Just send me a message. I'll send you your money like back for the months that you weren't there. It's going to be like, what, 10, 15 bucks. I'll send it to you. I don't mind. But yeah, like I can't do private streams. I just can't. It's just not conducive to what I want to do. Right. Like it's just, I don't know. And then exclusivity becomes, but you know, like if you consider that like just like help for somebody that's doing this like for other people like that. I guess that's good. I don't know. That's why I don't like doing shit like that. That's why I don't like asking you guys to subscribe and like pay money. Like it honestly, like it just drives me nuts. You know, like having to stress about like any money issues with people that I'm teaching, it just fucking destroys it for me. So, you know, like, yeah, don't go and pay subscriptions. Not for me, at least. Like, I honestly, like, because I just suck at doing the special things for people, and I don't even do special things for myself, guys. So, like I said, I'm so sorry, but it's just, it just doesn't come easily to me to do that. I need like a manager. I need somebody that's going to come in here and be like, all right, Rod. And then with like a big cigar and be like, all right, today we got to draw some ninjas. And then I'll be like, oh, cool, ninjas. They need them by 6 o'clock. I just need like a old, like grumpy, like old, like agent. That's what I need. Need an adult because we not adulting very well. Yeah, pretty much. Adulting isn't fun, man. Like adulting sucks. Sushi is always a good way to start a pose. Sushis. You're so cool. Sushis. Yeah, and then all these like become really easily into bodies. Like everything has a place within your body system. Your trick, actually your job as an illustrator is to learn how those little puzzle pieces fit. Learning where they communicate and where they actually stand and where they fall and where they pivot from is going to be an effort that takes years to understand properly. That does not mean that it's going to take years for you to be able to create something cool. Understanding where they move and where they come from is only going to be enhanced by your ability to draw things in perspective and have anatomy knowledge to understand how those shapes deform. Doing so is going to actually enhance your art, even though at first it might seem like your drawings don't look very, very good at first. It's going to take a while to adjust to seeing things like this. But when you revisit your basic foundations, when you revisit your basic cylinders, your basic spheres, and you learn how to draw through them, and you map points out, and you just do exercises like these for fun, right? When you do these things and you're constantly doing them just to be able to reassure yourself that you understand what you're drawing, that's when you develop a mastery over this sort of concepts. If you have problems with these basic shapes, I'm going to give you guys a couple exercises every time that we do any progress, anything that we do like this. I'm going to give you guys little exercises from here on out. So exercises to practice if you want to get better at this. So everything that we learn today has to be with perspective, and it has to do with anatomy. And it's not perspective in the way that we normally like view like perspective grids and stuff like that. No. This is perspective more so akin to each individual shape, more like a perfect anatomy or perfect perspective, which could be like isometric perspective or whatever. But it's more so akin of just learning how to draw through your shapes type of perspective rather than having one of those grid marks and drawing shapes in this perspective type of thing. Okay. So what you're doing is you're focusing on individual perspective and subdivisions rather than actual environmental perspective, which would involve a whole vanishing point and stuff. So whenever I'm drawing anything like this, I'm honestly just thinking about subdividing shapes. And this is how you subdivide your shapes from circles, squares, triangles, and cubes. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to learn how to draw your basic shapes, right? That should be very, very simple. Something like that should be really, really easy, especially if you've drawn for years. You should have the ability to do variations of them in every way, shape, or form you can possibly think of, right? So that and variations of them is going to be just a core component. So if you guys want to get your memory banks there again, practice doing these sort of shapes all over the page. Do like a page of these, one page of just basic shapes. Don't rush them either. Just do basic shapes. After you do your basic shapes, you're going to add depth to them. For circles, you're going to add circles inside of a circle. Try to do different width circles inside of your circle and see what happens with each one. Each one is going to give you a different midpoint. One is like a 3/4. This one's almost profile. You can choose whichever one, but just practice doing your little circles inside of circles. And that is how you start developing the width of a sphere. Because you just have to draw circles inside of circles, and then you end up with this sort of situation. Okay? So that is the ideal point for drawing a sphere in 3D. To draw a cube in 3D, all you do is draw a box, and then you draw another box, and then you connect the edges. That is how you come up with a cube in three-dimensional space. Doesn't matter how big it is. You can just draw through your shapes and come up with the other one. If you need to look at something from underneath, you can start with your cube and then draw the other cube a little bit below it. And you're going to have a lower view of it. You can do the same thing from the top. You can do the same thing from the sides as well. So a box or a cube is incredibly easy. And when you start learning how to draw through your shapes, you can start combining little and big shapes and seeing how that sort of stuff tapers. Okay? Start overlapping them so you start understanding how foreshortening works. Cylinders. Boom, boom, boom. Cylinders are just circles that are connected at the edges. That's essentially what a cylinder is. So now you can make them nice and straight by drawing the lines first. But essentially, this is what turns into fingers. These are essentially what turns into legs, hands, stuff like that. So cylinders play a big role. Understanding how to draw a cylinder is as simple as drawing a circle, two circles, and connecting them. Whatever circles you add inside are subdivisions of that circle. So you can go ahead and only draw one side of the subdivisions, and you end up with something like that. Something like that can easily turn into a forearm, or it can turn into, by just adding a little bit of knowledge of anatomy, you end up with hands, arms, stuff like that. So that is what cylinders do. So if you guys go out and just practice these shapes, you guys will get really, really good at drawing just basic foreshortening and elements like cylinders and spheres. The last one that we don't really use that much, but it's still something that you guys should practice, is how to draw a pyramid. A pyramid is good because you can draw a nose with a pyramid or with a cube or with a diamond. So when you're drawing a triangle and you want to draw a pyramid, just take this point and draw another triangle off of that, and then you can connect the points. Ta-da! Triangle. Choose a point where your next triangle is going to come from. Draw a triangle and draw through your shape to come up with your base. Bam! Son. Tall pyramid. But I want it to look from the bottom. So I'm going to draw the box first, and then I'm going to draw that. Boom. Done. So perspective is a lot about just playing with the connection points and what shapes pop up whenever you guys combine shapes. Now you can start doing things like combining boxes and spheres, and combining different elements that are not necessarily conducive to the same shape. You're going to slowly start combining boxes and spheres to be able to come up with a face. Pages and pages and pages of these. You guys will be able to do these exercises a lot easier. You guys will also be able to understand how to draw through your shapes better. So things like heads and eyes and stuff like that become a lot easier when you know how to map out, let's say, the ears, the spacing for the eyes. All that becomes incredibly simple once you understand how to draw through your shape. Okay, hear me out. There's lag? Is there lag? There shouldn't be lag. All right, just teach myself some foreshortening using some cylinders in different angles. I mean, yeah, like all you gotta do to learn foreshortening is do this. Learn how to draw two spheres, right? And then slowly put them. So you have your basic shape foreshortened, but now you add the knowledge of the muscles, the wrists, the connection points, the biceps, all that stuff, and then you end up with an actual body part. So it's not about just learning how the shape works. It's about learning that. Now the video keeps stopping and going, huh? Yeah. Sorry about that. Honestly, I don't know why. Sorry about that, guys. But we are getting to the end of the stream anyway, so this lesson will be on YouTube, and I'm going to have to learn to close my window so that doesn't happen. Lag, sorry. And how that connects to our actual system. We talked about heads, and we talked about, no, we didn't talk about heads much, but we were talking a lot about like the construction of actual elements, right? So it's not enough to actually just learn how a cylinder works. You got to learn how a cylinder works when it's not functioning with a basic cylinder, like the calf and stuff like that. That's a very annoying part for a lot of people because it's not just a basic cylinder. It's like a bone, and then you have a bone wrapping or muscle wrapping behind the bone rather than the middle. So people have a lot of hard times figuring out how to draw that. So things like this, we have a little bit of space. Draw the bone first that connects the kneecap to the bottom. So draw your thigh, kneecap, bone, foot. And then draw your calf wrapping and connecting behind your thigh. That is literally the easiest way to do that. So draw your thigh, kneecap, bone to the foot. And then from behind that bone, you connect it and you end up with your perfect calf muscle. Ta-da! Calf muscle. Ta-da! Looks like that. Oh, easy. But anyways, we are nearing the end of our stream. Thank you guys so much for being my drawing buddies today. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. I have a very busy day ahead of me. I'm going to have to draw quite a bit today. Family stuff just kept me from doing some things that I promised. So I need to get into that immediately. As of today, it's going to be a busy, 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 busy day. But it'll be fun, it'll be interesting, and I get to draw, which is amazing. So hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. And I will leave you guys with a little bit of niceness to keep you guys nice and warm and stuff like that inside. So I want you guys to go outside and live a little, love a little. I want you guys to love a little. That being, be nice to someone around you, be nice to your family members or your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Do something nice. It'll come back to you in a good way. I want you guys to go live a little. Go out and walk around for a little bit. Give yourself a time away from your desk, outside your room. Go out and socialize. Go talk to a human being. If there's a girl you like, go tell her that you like her. If you have a boy you like, go tell him that you like him. Go live a little. Risk a little bit. It's going to be something that also comes back to makes you a little bit happier. I want you guys to go outside and laugh a little. So joy is a big component in art. You need to be happy for the most part to be able to create in the most efficient way. And if you're a person that deals with negativity and that's what fuels you, I am so sorry. But you can go cry a little too if you want, I guess, just to feel that. But let's try to aim to laugh as you cry as well, just to make sure that you're still happy. And then I want you guys to go outside and draw a lot. Okay, because that's the only way you guys actually get better is if you actually put things that I'm teaching you guys in practice. If you guys don't go out and practice what I'm teaching you guys, then it's kind of like a dead lesson, you know? So that's why I encourage you guys to draw with me, draw alongside with me, ask questions, and whenever I do get a chance, I do answer them. I do apologize for the people that I have not been able to answer your questions. I am a one-person army, and that is essentially how it's going to stay for the long, considerable future, because that's essentially the only person that I really trust is me. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic start to your weekend if you guys don't see each other before then. And with that being said, take care, everybody. Have a good one.